Welcome to Nerdabout, Episode 5, Helsinki, brought to you by the good folks at Lucky Duck Games. Lucky Duck recently showed off the Kickstarter giants Andromeda's Edge and Unconscious Mind at Essen, both of which the Big Duck is going to be selling at retail, so check those out. Nerdabout is a show about travel, food, culture, and general geekitude. We are three good friends within the board game industry who, through collaborations, commingling, and coagulation, have ended up in some absolutely amazing cities. Let's do some intros.
I love the coagulating. Wow.
I know. That was perfect.
All right. Well, I'm Daryl, and this is my dog, Lincoln. And I'm a board game designer. I've done a bunch of co-designs, Sagrada, Mistwind, and my newest game, Donald Duck, Happy Camper, published by Meister Media. And in Finland, there's one sauna for every two people. And Lincoln's fun fact is there is a dog island for awfully well-behaved canines.
Hello, everyone. My name is Beneeta Kaur. I'm a board game Twitch streamer and social media consultant. And as someone who has gotten one too many speeding tickets is actually kind of a problem. In Finland, speeding tickets are based on your personal income, which is something I wish that they did here.
I'm Corey Thompson, co-owner of Above Board TV, co-host of Board Game Insider, and author of the interview website Dice Tower Dish. In Finnish, there's all these wonderful words that I think we need in English, and my current favorite is kalsari kennit, which translates to sitting at home alone and drinking in your underwear.
I love that there is a word for that.
I know.
Of course, I'm going to use it all the time now.
Yeah. Are you doing that right now, Corey? Where are you in the world?
I am currently in a hotel in Washington, D.C., and I've been just traveling all over. I still haven't gotten home from Essen. So I've been going to game stores, doing meetups with fans, had dinner with a couple different designers, with Elizabeth Hargrave, and interestingly, with the designer of Dale of Merchant, Sami Laakso, who is Finnish, but through serendipity again, I actually met up with him in Maryland.
Yeah, I didn't know that. Also, you're in Maryland and you're not visiting me. What's up with that, Corey?
We are passing like this. We are just moving right past each other. You just arrived from Maryland. Where have you been?
In Corey's defense, I have not been home. After Essen, I wanted to trade in the gray, dreary German weather for sun and beaches, and I was in Malta for over a week, and it was amazing. I was in the water like every single day. I got to hang out with the people from Mighty Boards a few times. I played games, but I also took a vacation, which is like so unusual. So it was great.
So Daryl, I've been hanging out with designers, and Benita's been in Malta at the beach. I'm sure you did something just as glamorous this past
Yeah, that sounds so desirable. I laid in bed all week.
I'm so sorry. I couldn't help it.
No, I remembered I am not a young man anymore, and all this extravagant travel kicked my butt. But thankfully, I felt better by the weekend because here in Canada, it was Thanksgiving. So I got to rock my smoker and smoke the turkey. And lots of good food and games and family time. So very thankful to feel better now.
Awesome.
That sounds lovely.
Well, Beneeta, why don't you go ahead and start us off with some sites and hotels around Finland?
Yeah, so, okay. Now, we talked about this earlier about butchering the words. I'm going to try my best, but one of the really cool sites of Helsinki is called Temppeliakio Church, which is a church that is carved directly into the solid rock. So this unique church is kind of renowned for its stunning acoustics and natural lighting, and also, it's carved into solid rock, which is amazing.
Yeah.
Corey, when I go.
I was gonna give a shout out for just really gorgeous, pretty, fancy things. We stayed at the St. George Hotel. Not quite the same, but it was real fancy. Maybe too fancy for our kind of ways.
I think it was too fancy.
Maybe too fancy, but I will give a big thank you because of Marriott. Woohoo! That they gave me a sweet room upgrade. So I had a patio, a living room. Corey got a room where I think his bathroom was bigger than his room.
It's true. My actual room was much smaller than my bathroom. To be
How is
fair,
that
it was a very
possible?
large bathroom and a relatively small bedroom.
Also, wait, I have so many questions because I wasn't part of this Helsinki trip. So, what do you mean the hotel was like too bougie? Like, you love bougie, you two. What does too bougie mean?
It looked like a royalty hotel.
Yeah, it really did.
And I think it actually has been in the past.
Yeah, I think so. And I think like probably some very A-list people stay there. I actually got to hang out in the spa, which was pretty dope, which we'll get into all the kinds of things. But even while talking to people that we know, they said like, this is the fancy hotel. That's the fancy spa. The bakery in the main floor was even a go-to spot for a few different people I know of, like a nice fancy coffee shop that they go to. So it was real fancy.
It was gorgeous. So we got together with Christian Ajopalo, who's a game designer in Helsinki, and he took us on walks around the city. And one of the big ones that I really noticed was the Sky Wheel. So a lot of cities nowadays have a giant Ferris wheel in the middle of downtown, and Helsinki's no different. Right on the water is this gigantic Ferris wheel. And the notable part about this is 3 of the cars look noticeably different in the Ferris wheel. They're wooden, and that's because they are saunas. Sauna culture's a big one that we'll talk about a little bit later. But yes, the Ferris wheel had 3 sauna cars.
That is amazing. I know like Finnish culture is very big into sauna, but like that's so cool. Did you go in one?
Not in the Ferris wheel, no.
Not in the Ferris wheel. Okay.
But there are saunas in our future talk for sure.
Sure. So another cool site is called the Somalina Sea Fortress, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's like a historic sea fortress, and it's spread across 6 islands. And it just has like scenic views, museum, and just like it's not in Helsinki. It's like a little bit of a day escape, but you can go access it via a short ferry ride. So it's like one of the must-see things in Helsinki specifically.
Yeah, and I was actually pretty impressed with at the harbor. There's a bunch of different ferries. We heard all about kind of the different ferries that you can take a ferry.
Kind of in between, in between a ferry and a cruise ship.
Yeah,
really.
But sometimes these ferry trips will be 4 days long, 5 days long, to go to other parts of Scandinavia, and people make a big deal out of it.
Yeah.
Well, like, outside of just like ferries, there's also a harbor area it's a market square, and I'm going to pronounce this. It's called the Kapatori, which is a vibrant outdoor market and has like a lot of local delicacies, crafts, souvenirs. It's a good place to like try the different like Helsinki type of restaurants and just like you sit there and enjoy the views of the Baltic Sea.
Yeah, we walked through there. It was very pretty. And at that market square, I was also told that's where hockey games are celebrated. I'll get more into that in the geeky section, but as many people know, I am a big sports fan, and there's some all-time great Finnish hockey players, and so it was fun to see like kind of that was their spot that you would do kind of your partying outside for big hockey game celebration.
And the market was really cool. It was towards the end of the season because, of course, we were there in October. And it was down to like mushrooms, but there were so many mushrooms out at this market. I loved it. Just took lots of pictures.
And then finally, continuing with like the open air things, if you have the Sorasari Open Air Museum, which is again on an island, and it just showcases traditional Finnish wooden buildings and rural can't say that word life from the 18th to 20th century. And it's a really good place to kind of like learn about Finnish history and nature, because nature is such a huge part of like Finnish culture.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. And you know what? Cool. Like Beneeta mentioned, that's on an island. In our research, we found out that there are over 300 islands just within the city of Helsinki. So
that's
lots of places.
Finland is just wild countryside of islands and swamps and lakes, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah, it was really beautiful to fly over.
All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about food and drink, some of my very favorite things.
Mine too. So apparently Helsinki has a very strong gin culture, aka the long drink. So which was created in 1952 for the Helsinki Summer Olympics. And so specifically the long drink has gin, citrus soda, and usually grapefruit. Did either of you try the long drink when you were in Helsinki? It
was hard to go anywhere without having one just put in your hand.
Yeah.
Really?
You think they're handing you a can of soda, but it's a can of long drink. And I really like it.
Okay.
It's clean, and the grapefruit really comes through.
Really nice and crisp. And I just noticed it, actually, this last week. I was at a restaurant, and it said Finnish long drink. So it's spreading. Like, this is like the hipster jargon. Like, people are getting it.
Even though it was made to be like a cheap alcoholic beverage for the Olympics in 52, it is ridiculously popular today. So it just stuck.
I need to go to a Finnish restaurant nearby and try this long drink. And so another Finnish classic is licorice. People
they
in Finland love licorice. Sweet and salty. And they're even licorice liquor. Say that 5 times fast. Okay, I gotta say, I do not like licorice, but did you all try licorice in Finland?
I did. I had the salmiakki, which is jet black, a little thick, and intensely licorice. Yeah. And it was hysterical because it was myself and Daryl and Midge were at the Dized headquarters. Yeah. And I know for a fact Daryl and Midge do not like licorice, and I do. Yeah. And instantly it was
super fun. It was the first of many shots and lovely beverages and amazing food. We're going to talk all about it, obviously, in this section. But that was the first shot, and I got to say it was the worst shot. But
I like it a lot.
It set the bar, so everything just got better and better. So
okay, well that's pretty cool.
So yeah, I mean, one of my favorites I remember was actually it was like a whiskey creamy drink that was the Cairo Dairy cream, and it's like a rye whiskey with like a cream. That was my personal favorite of all.
That sounds really good.
And Cairo was at the airport even. It was Cairo was a really famous gin distillery again, and then they moved on to whiskeys, and they've got these really high-end whiskeys in
I mean, whiskey is a better drink than gin, so I want to try this.
It was amazing. Cairo is now like won a lot of international awards.
Oh, okay.
Mostly for the gins, but all kinds of varieties now.
Sure. Well, the food in Helsinki was really good as well. And I have to just quickly mention here, in Helsinki, they have, just clear your mind here, get ready for this. They
Set
have
that bar real low.
They have pizza taxis.
What?
Combination taxi, pick you up and give you a pizza.
That's amazing.
Isn't that great? This is a common combined service in Helsinki. More people should do this. No more can be said about that. No.
How did they? I have so many questions. Like, how did they think of this idea? How does it work? Do you when you order a taxi on your phone? Do you also order the pizza? Like,
I don't want to first. I have a picture of just an enlightened Nirvana-esque. Yeah, pizza.
Let it be perfect in your mind. I think that's better.
That's it. I just have so many questions.
Now, we went to a couple really nice restaurants, and it turns out a lot of restaurants in the area they specialize in fire roasted meats. So we went to one called Brasa, which was a light lunch and had absolutely amazing fish. It was all fire roasted stuff. And again, we went with Christian from Clask, which we'll talk about a little bit later. And then later, we also went to Pamela. Pamela was a really cool downstairs restaurant, and it has the largest open fire grill in Helsinki, and it had a very Middle Eastern flair to it. We had a lot of yogurts and hummus, and we actually had a fixed menu where they gave us appetizer after appetizer after appetizer and a main, and it was really delicious. Had a lovely atmosphere down there.
It was a wonderful meal. Not the best meal, which we're going to get into, but it was pretty special. There are some fancy restaurants, though.
There is. There's a single 2-star Michelin restaurant in Helsinki called Palace, We didn't get a chance to go, but that is
Ooh.
definitely on my list. It looks like just a ridiculously nice place.
Yeah.
Established in 52, got its Michelin star in 87, and really specializing in the Helsinki seafood experience.
Yeah.
So that's high on my list for next time. However, the best meal in Helsinki by far.
Oh yeah, by far.
By far was the dinner that was cooked for us by Dized co-owner Tomi, who may or may not be one of our guests today.
Spoilers.
And so we had all sorts of amazing things. We had herring that was coated in rye crumbs and cooked just right. We had lovely appetizers, many drinks, but the star of the dinner was a special kind of lamb. And this lamb, a little history, is called Sarah. So
tell this is my favorite thing. You got to describe.
What? This sounds amazing.
Like, what's the process? Oh,
so Sarah is a traditional lamb dish that was done in the town of Lemmi in the southeast of Finland for a very long time, for 100 years. And they carve a roasting platter out of birch. They take marinated, just in salt cured lamb and potatoes, roast it just right. It takes all day, but literally this traditional dish, the ingredients are lamb, salt, and potatoes. And
that's it.
That's it. No other spices.
It's magic.
That's it. And our
magical.
host, Tommy, cooked this so perfectly. The lamb just fell apart. I have to say, this is the best lamb I have ever eaten.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was.
I mean, there's a lot of process, and like Tommy's got his secrets. We're not outing the chef's process, but it was amazing. It was like we had all these courses, but that lamb,
he had the roasting pan carved out of birchwood. He did it exactly. Well, I don't know the original.
Well,
but
we sent photos so that he could send to his dad. Even well, it was so fun.
This one town is known for this one dish, and Tommy nailed it.
It was so good. And then
so
Corey, you gotta tell him about the dessert.
I loved this. So there's a traditional dessert in Finland called mammi, which is a sweet rye paste. It looks like black. It looks like tar.
I was afraid it was going to taste like Vegemite. That was my fear.
It looks like Vegemite.
Or licorice.
Yeah, or licorice. Either way, I was like,
especially at Easter time, you eat spoonfuls of it sometimes with cream. And so Toby brought it out just to show off the container of this black tar, and it was delicious. It tastes heavy of rye bread with that caraway seed headiness.
But it's sweet.
Tommy, it's sweet. Yeah. Tommy made it into an ice cream.
Ice cream.
An ice cream. And it was incredible. And I won't lie, I went back and took a couple spoonfuls of the paste because it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. Got a little bit of a cookie dough kind of thing going. But if bread were a cookie dough.
Yeah. I really think it's gonna be a side business. I mean, maybe we can convince our guests, not that they don't have enough things going on already, but they could just, start another business as well. Why not? Right?
No biggie.
So,
it's so simple.
Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guests. So we have Uni Usila and Tomi Beneeta, who are the founders of Dized, which is an interactive tutorial system for board games, and Dized is based in Helsinki. I've had the honor of coming and visiting Dized and getting fed these incredible meals and treated to spa and sauna 2 years now, and this is something I kind of want to do on a regular basis.
I mean, can you tell us where you're filming from?
Yeah.
Where I'm filming from?
No.
Hey everybody, thanks for having us. I am sitting in a sauna right now. I know that the background behind me looks like it's a picture, but it's actually not.
No, that's real.
It's a real sauna that Corey and Daryl has been in.
Yeah,
that's true.
I'll prove it by trying to throw this thing in the. There we go. Almost.
So
Yeah.
literally, I
Probably
landed
the
in
coolest
Helsinki,
place.
and within 30 minutes, I was in a sauna with these guys.
That's
It
amazing.
was incredible.
yeah, so fun. So yeah, so we, first of all, thank you for being part of our show. You were an amazing host to us. Corey's going to ask you a few questions, and we'll put you on the spot. But you are our go-to experts. When we think of Finland, we think of you. You are our incredible hosts. And so we're looking forward to putting you two on the spot here. Corey, do you want to start the questions?
So we've got our standard first question because I want to know more about everything. So tell us something fascinating about Finland that we probably don't know. And be careful. We've done our research, so we know everything.
Okay, well let's start with the Finnish language. I kept score for the first
no.
That's why I'm hiding behind the Lucky Duck logo.
Since you know everything, let's do the way you pronounced it, and then I say it how I would pronounce it in Finnish. Finnish language is actually funny in the sense that when you know how letters are pronounced, they are always pronounced the same way, every single letter. So when you know how to pronounce those letters, you can, in a way, read Finnish perfectly. You might not understand it, but you can read it. But let's start with what was the first place that Beneeta you mentioned? It was the church.
It was. Oh gosh. Okay, it's called Temppeliaukio Church.
It's very close. Temppeliaukio.
Nice.
Yeah.
And how about the sea fortress? I thought was funny because it sounded like when you said it, it was something very different. What was the sea fortress?
Somelina Sea Fortress.
To me, it sounds like Somalina, which sounds like a cute napkin. But I know when I say it, it might sound like, well, that's exactly what I said. Suomenlinna.
Okay.
That was
Suomen is Finnish, Linna is
language. When there's double letters, you extend them out. I thought that was really fascinating. So
yeah, it's a bit weird. I'll skip the other ones. I thought that the way you pronounce the distillery, I think you said something like Cairo, like the capital of Egypt.
Yeah,
it's Kyro.
Okay.
Kyro.
That was worse than mine. Okay.
Yeah. Well, we all knew we rolled worse.
We're not pointing fingers here.
we really roll our R's. But so one thing to mention about that distillery, they did start with whiskey. The thing is, they had this amazing idea. They did like their first the chisel. What is that? Tell me, what is the first? Like the first chisel, the first batch that you do before it goes into the barrel. And they went to some whiskey show, and some professionals tried it out, and they said this is going to be brilliant once it's aged. Right. So they put that stuff in barrels, but it needs to cure there or age there for 5 years. So what do we do for 5 years now? They started making gin, and just by coincidence, they happened to make the best gin in the world that year. So that was their let's do something meanwhile while we wait for the whiskey to age.
If only we could be that successful all the time while we just wait.
Right.
Yeah, and the dish Tommy made was Sara.
Sara.
I was very close. I tried hard. That one.
Well, I gotta say, you nailed Mammy.
Yeah,
I've been practicing Mammy, and I love it. So, Tony, tell us something fascinating about Finland that we don't know.
Oh, I have a few, but I gotta, since you only just mentioned the Sara, what's interesting about it that both the birch wooden dish that it's made and served and the dish itself, they're both called Sara. So that's
so it's named after the dish.
Yes, so that's it. So a few interesting. I'll go with 3 interesting facts. 2 of them are something that everybody should know, and they also explain a bit of our personalities here in Finland. First of all, we have over 107. Oh no, wait, 180,000 lakes in Finland that are more than 500 square meters big.
Amazing.
So we're mostly lakes and forest.
Yeah.
So that's
that
why
makes sense.
Lakes.
Flying in, you could see so many lakes. It was incredible.
Yeah, so basically there's a lake between every person in Finland, so
wow.
we have our own space.
That's amazing.
And, of course, going back to the saunas, which was also mentioned, we have over 3 million of them in Finland, and we're something over 5 million people here. So, yeah, we also like our steam rooms a lot.
Yeah.
So everybody can go alone in their own steam room.
2.
Yeah.
2. One for everything.
Me and Tommy are doing right now.
Yeah.
Do you know where? Sorry, do you know where all the sauna culture came from? Like, how did that happen?
Yeah, it is freaking cold up here. Finland is cut in half by the Arctic Circle. Like we're on the same height as Alaska.
Okay. There you go.
Necessity.
Yeah, it's a very old tradition, and I think there's some heritage of that in some like ancient cultures as well. But for us, it's been a very good since in like hundreds of years ago. Saunas are very clean places, so people came to give birth in the sauna, and it was an important part of every household basically back then.
Wow.
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I was just about to say, wood in general is just a very hygienic material.
Yeah.
And it's a very hygiene environment. It's warm. You get hot water, which you want to have readily, or warm water readily by when you're giving birth. So it was like this nation for thousands of years. People have been born in sauna. So I think that's where it kind of comes.
Let me throw you another Finland question here. So I learned that Finland was kind of known for a lack of small talk. People are very comfortable being quiet, reserved, and there's not a need to fill the space with talk. So I was curious how party games and social games with a lot of talking fare in Finland. Is it excuse for people to be crazy where they normally wouldn't, or is it just super uncomfortable, or is it not done at all?
I can answer this. First of all, when party game starts, yes, typically it's very uncomfortable, but that's where alcohol comes in. All the gins and whiskeys and everything.
The long drink. There it is.
Oh my goodness!
Showing off the long drink.
The long drink.
But you are absolutely correct, Corey. We don't small talk, and typically we are very turned inwards. It's totally normal to go to a store, do your whole run, go to the cashier, and go home and not say a word, and everybody thinks that's totally polite.
Yeah, I gotta confess, I told my wife, like, after only being there for like an hour, I was like, I think the whole country hates me because I'm trying to talk to everyone. So it's just like the opposite of the Canadian way. We only small talk.
Tommy, have you ever played a party game in Finland without drinking involved?
No.
No.
But it's done. But people do play party games, and it is. I just was curious whether it's even done at all.
It's done, and you can see if you visit Finnish board game stores, there is a good amount of party games being sold, so people definitely play them. We're of course cost biased, so we play these games, but we're not typical Finns. We also travel quite a bit, and we have learned small talk, which is a skill you have to learn as a Finn. You learn it in school.
You are one of the most talkative people I know, so. You, for a long time, were my only representative of Finnish culture, and when I learned that there is no small talk in Finland, I was very confused.
Yeah, I'm not the. I have ruined you or Finnish people for you because I'm definitely not your typical Finn.
No, I have such a good time. So, okay, here's our big question: what is the best board game to play in a sauna?
Joni, you want to go first?
Sure. this is I do have a game in mind, but I do want to mention that as like the sauna has such a long history in Finland, and it's a sacred place for Finnish people. I don't ever remember actually playing a game in a sauna because we go in and we sit there quietly, or we drink and talk about whatever. But I don't remember ever really playing a game. But obviously, it would need to be a game that's waterproof. So maybe Corey was Chip Theory games, or who does those waterproof games? So it would need to be something like that. I would probably, if I could
play as underwater.
Yeah. So if I could figure out something, how to play like Hitster, for example. I really like Hitster, even though it's you know, the game where you recognize which song, which artist, what year is playing. We often listen to music in sauna, and I think that could work as a sauna game.
That's a great pick. I love it. I love it.
Do you have one, Tommy?
I was gonna echo Joni that I don't think I've ever played a game in a sauna, and I couldn't really come up with one.
Future market.
Sauna games.
I thought of one, and I think just imagine you came to Helsinki, Daryl and Corey and Joni, and you're in a sauna, and I'm gonna bring Twister.
Okay, that wins. That's the best.
I was waiting for Twister.
This is the only place where we feel comfortable with other people as Finns when we're naked in a sauna together. There we can be as close as we want. We probably are still silent, but
silent sauna Twister. You could stick circles on like the ceilings, the walls, the seats.
Oh my goodness. Well, why don't you guys talk to us a little bit about Dized? I've mentioned a couple times, Joni and Tommy, you're the co-founders of Dized. Tell us a little bit about what Dized does.
Dized is, in short, it's a digital companion for tabletop games. It's something to give you a digital layer, interactive tutorials, and game extras to give you better board gaming experiences. When we started this company, which started just because we were, by coincidence, both designing a board game at the same time, and this sort of got us talking, oh, you're designing a board game as well. And we started talking about this whole industry and what we could do with it. And both of us had IT background, so we were naturally immediately interested in, like, could we do something with smart devices or digital stuff? And then when we started pitching this, like the interactive tutorial, which at the time we pitched as being a video game tutorial for board games, was universally interesting for publishers. So that's when we started really looking into it. We did research, we interviewed players. How do you prefer to learn games? And pretty much the main principle was, I really like when somebody knows the game already and can teach it to me, so I can just show up to game night and learn as we play. So that's what we wanted to build a service for. Let's put that experience into a platform, and that's how Dized basically got started.
Yeah, I love it.
Cool.
So cool. And Tommy, do you want to tell us a little bit more about, as it's evolved, what now is all offered? What kind of things does Dized provide for publishers and such?
Ooh, you're muted.
You're on mute.
Yep. So right now we heavily concentrate on the interactive tutorials, which is the go-to thing that all the publishers and players want. But of course, we are more ambitious than that, and we've already started creating what we call extras, which are basically downloadable content for board games. However you can expand the game digitally, we try to provide it. Whether it's simple things like score counters or dice rollers or anything like that, or you can add soundtracks, soundboards, extra adventures, more characters, whatever you can imagine that can be done digitally, our tools try to provide that. And that is like the step that we are concentrating also right now. And in the future, we of course want to build this as the Swiss Army knife that we've talked within the company itself, that it will have community features where you can check out new games, keep your own game library, and contact the publishers and follow the industry, all that stuff. So it will be that one place where you want to go every day, even if you're not playing games.
We really want to Yeah, we really want to be the gateway into board gaming, and whatever we can do with this device that makes your board gaming life easier, makes it easier for you to find new titles to play, easier to learn them, easier to put that game on table and sit down with the people you love and play a game. That's if we want to support that. And obviously, a service like this is beneficial for the entire industry, for retailers, for publishers, and cafes, everybody. Yeah. So that's basically what we want to build, an inclusive platform that benefits this whole hobby and players. We're players first, and not fans of Roblox. so this is mainly it's a service we really needed. So right? that's where the whole spark sort of came from. And then we realized we're not the only ones. Like there's a lot of players out there who don't play board games because of there's a lot of thresholds to get into that play mode, and we want to solve those.
Absolutely. No, I as a designer, I want all my games to have, DICE support, and so I just think, it just feels like it makes a lot of sense that you're using those skills and bringing people together, and even I love that, like, you're bringing together even voice actors and coders and all, different people together and using those skill sets to make games more approachable and more accessible for everyday gamers. So we really appreciate your expertise. We're going to actually have you sneak backstage, but we're going to bring you back for our last question. But we really appreciate you joining us. Don't get too hot in the sauna while you're waiting, and it won't be too long as we talk about our geeky topics.
Can I mention one thing?
Oh, please.
Yeah.
When it was my turn to talk about the facts, and I started talking about the Finnish language, I had a few listed, and I thought that was my bad. I started rambling. So let's go as far as we find a fact that none of you knew about. I'm going to start with something that you probably knew, that Finland has been selected as the happiest country in the world for 7 years.
Yeah, Canada's been fighting y'all. We've been trying.
It's so you probably also knew that Angry Birds is from Finland.
You're stealing my material. That's coming up.
I do want to throw this. I do want to throw this in. Linux, the operating system that's based on Unix. Linus Torvalds is Finnish, but I think Corey at least might have known that.
Yeah, no, that's in our future stuff too.
All right. Did you know that Finland consumes per capita? We're a small nation, so everything that we do the most in the world is always going to be per capita thing. We consume the most coffee per capita in the world, and also
I literally learned this yesterday.
I did not know that. Okay.
Didn't know that one.
All right. Yeah. All right. Here's. I have two more. Finland was the first country in the world to give all women and men equal voting rights and the right to run for office.
I didn't know that one.
Wow,
I didn't know that one.
All right, so here's the last one. Finland does not exist. Did you know this?
What?
What?
Yes, we found one.
You got it.
It's a conspiracy theory. You can look it up online, but it's actually quite popular. That Finland it's actually only ocean, because Japanese and Russian fishermen want to keep that area of the Baltic just for their own fishing purposes. So they tell everybody that there's a country there you shouldn't.
I'm embarrassed. I made a game about conspiracy theories, and I did not know that one. That makes me feel bad.
How can you have a conspiracy theory?
It's like
the country doesn't exist.
Birds don't exist.
Yep.
Birds don't exist.
There's a city in Germany that they always have a conspiracy theory that it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
We have to do a fake fact. You know a lot about Finland.
We did our research.
The Gateway Arch in St. Louis?
Yeah.
That's designed by a Finn.
Ooh,
I did not know that.
Didn't know that one. Nice.
Hey. There we go.
Alrighty, man. We're going to put you backstage, and we're going to talk about geeky stuff that certainly will not involve Linus Torvalds.
Or maybe.
Maybe a little bit.
Love it. All right. Well,
man,
we've obviously talked lots about sauna culture, and we're not going to get deep into it beyond what we already talked about. But my favorite little aside, because it was just down the road from us, was actually in the Burger King just down the street from us. There was a sauna inside the Burger King.
Wild. That's just
So
wild. to me.
that blew my mind.
Every office has a sauna.
Yeah.
Almost every home has a sauna.
Yeah.
But who's
The
going to
Ferris wheel had a
and be
sauna.
like,
Yeah.
I want to like sauna after eating, like
Yeah,
after
and
eating
people like will have their scheduled time, you name it. So that was always like just awesome to learn about. When we went to visit the Dice headquarters, they obviously have the built-in sauna there, but they also brought us a hot tub to cater to us non-Finns. But maybe that'll be the next craze is an expansion
Hot
into
tub.
that. I got to give a shout out. We mentioned earlier that we hung out with Christian, who's on the Clask team with Mikhail and others. It was really fun. He gave us a walking tour, and they actually do a world championship where even designer Asgar, who we've mentioned in previous episodes, has won for the world championship. So we got to give him a shout out for.
Okay, but before we continue, I have my favorite Asgar story. A few weeks ago, we're at World Series of Board Gaming, and Asgar is being Asgar and is like, I'm learning Crokinole for the first time. I've never played Crokinole before. I know that Asgar is the class like champion, but he's just like trash talking how bad I am at Crokinole. And but I'm just like, this is my first time playing, but I do have some background in playing Carom board because I grew up
close.
playing that in when I would go visit India. So I challenged Asgar to a Crokinole match because you know how I am, very competitive.
Yeah.
So it was me. Yeah, I know, right? Surprising. Me and Casey versus Asgar. He thought that was a fair match. And he was like confident trash talking the whole game, and then the very last like shoot. He's about to like slide it in, but I shoot, I touch his like little like circle, and then I sink it into the 20 points, and I win the game.
Whoa.
And he just yells because he's so upset that he lost because he was just trash talking for the last like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it was the best thing ever.
Nice. Love it. Well, you know I'm biased, but Crokino's international championship is just down the road from me, so.
I did not know that, but now I need a Crokinole board because it's
Above
amazing.
Board went and filmed there.
Yeah.
But we're off track.
We're off track. But talking games, there's a pretty major Finnish publisher who also has a game store that Corey and I got to visit. I know you're familiar with them, Beneeta. What's the company? What's some of their notable games?
Do you want to pronounce it?
Nope. That's why I passed it to you.
Lautapalette.
Lautapalette. And so some of the notable games include like Flamme Rouge, Agamonia, Eclipse, Nations. And I've never visited, but I want to for sure. So because there's some really like notable games that they've published.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Corey. Lautapalette, just as an aside, Uni had put a little note in the side of our thing. It's the Finnish word for board game.
Yeah,
so
board game
I thought that was great.
Really easy to find.
Yeah.
But one of the other big things in Finland, Helsinki specifically, is the blooming of technology.
Yep.
So Nokia was housed in Helsinki, and at its peak in 2000, Nokia accounted for 4% of the entire country's GDP. It was 21% of all of its exports. And it just dominated the stock exchange. 70% of the NASDAQ Helsinki was just Nokia.
Yeah. So off of those shoulders, the tech scene has continued to the point that while we were there, actually, the Finnish Games Week was happening. There was the Pocket Gamers Connect Helsinki 10th anniversary convention.
Yeah, we saw them at a couple of the restaurants.
Yeah, a few of the restaurants we went to. And the Finnish, just the video game industry alone, just in the last couple of years has accounted for over $2 billion each year. Angry Birds is really the success story that blew the gates open in 2009. But obviously, there were lots of incredible titles.
Finland's got this great system where the Finnish government will support new businesses and industries. And Angry Birds was the poster child of this system where the Finnish government helped them get going. And certainly, they got remarkably successful. Yeah.
Since then and over the last few years, I've noticed lots of articles about, startups that you can invest in. It all comes from, some of the titles I wrote down that, have been some of the big successes. Angry Birds, we mentioned, Badlands, Flat Out, Need for Speed Carbon, South Park 10, Stardust, Snake. And one that I went to visit and took a bunch of pictures in front of the building was Clash of Clans, the Supercell, being a real famous success story. One of many of the very successful video game companies that have become huge employers. I mean, Supercell alone, I think, has 700 employees. So just
wow,
that's insane how big and popular he is.
And they have now offices, in Asia and America, but their main headquarters for Supercell is right in downtown Helsinki. I got to take a bunch of pictures in front of some of the statues that they have built for that. Talking about statues, though, I miss getting pictures with, but I wanted to, was Bad Boy, the peeing statue. I mean, I've gotten my pictures in front of the one in Amsterdam. This one is is huge and scary looking. It was unveiled in 2014. It got moved. It used to be, I believe, on the East Harbor front. Now it's rated
enormous. It's almost 9 meters tall.
9 meters tall.
Like
25.
It's terrifying looking, y'all.
Yeah. If you Google it, I didn't want to show an image because it will haunt you. But it got repositioned. Now it's in front of the Finnish Museum of Games, which, Corey, I'm shocked we didn't go to. When we go back, we got to go there because I know, we already heard from Uni, the creator of Linux. You have a backstory with them.
Well, Linus Torvalds is the Finnish creator of Linux, and Linux has turned into an enormous industry. But of course, Linux, people might or might not know, Linux was a legal copy of the Unix operating system. And in the software, you can, if you prove that you've not used someone else's original code, you can write exactly the same end product, as long as you prove along the way that you did all the work and you didn't take anyone else's work. So Linux did this and became a more commercial application because Unix was under a whole bunch of agreements with various owners of Bell Laboratories, AT&T. There was tons. Berkeley University had a BSD version. But my connection, of course, is that my father created the original Unix back in 1969, I believe. So we should have hunted down Linus. I don't would have seen us.
How dare you?
Yeah,
I met him once ages ago, but I was a kid.
The elusive one. Talking about elusive and cute is these Moomins. They were
were in love with these things.
Oh man, they were everywhere. It's from a Swedish-speaking Finnish author, Tove Jansson, and there's a Moomin world that you can go visit in Naantali. I'm sure I'm butchering how you say that, but they're everywhere. They're cute. Yeah. There was books, gear, stores, you name it. So that was, one other geeky thing that seems to be everywhere. And then I promised before a little sports geekdom. As I mentioned, in that center square is where some of the great Finnish celebrations have been for hockey. I got to give a shout out to 3 of my favorite Finnish hockey players. Jari Kurri, who played for the Edmonton Oilers a number of years, and many others, but the greatest in my opinion. And for a Canadian team, Edmonton Oilers, go. I think he won 5 Stanley Cups alone with them. I don't know who else. Then I got to give a shout out to Teemu Selanne, which, by the way, now I can talk Finnish if we're talking Finnish hockey names. But Teemu Selanne played for the Winnipeg Jets, another Canadian team, and a bunch of others, and I think is the highest scoring Finnish player. And then third, Saku Koivu, who played for Montreal Canadiens, my rival as a Toronto Maple Leaf team. So I suffered through lots of Saku Koivu games. I think he was the captain of Montreal for like at least 10 years. I think his career was 14 or 15 years. But the last geeky thing I got to give a shout out. For many years as growing up, I remember, and this is a after Christmas tradition of watching the World Juniors Championship. Most places in the world don't care about this, except for Canada, Finland, Russia, a few places. And for very much it felt like every other year or every third year, it was hosted in Finland and then Canada and somewhere else. And it felt like the rotation for a while in my childhood. But I'd like to brag about how Canada has 20 gold medals in the juniors, versus Finland's only got 5. And the first one, I was a very young kid, and it was because Canada got disqualified. But Finland got their very first gold medal because the Russians picked a fight, and it became a brawl. And the Canadian team, even though the Russian team was out of it, and Canada was on their way to the gold medal game, we got in such a brawl that we walked. We left the tournament, and that automatically let the Finns get their very first gold.
So are you saying it's because the Canadians were there? That's why the Finnish got their first gold?
No, there's like Canadian Finland love.
Wow. When Yoni and Toby come back, they're gonna have some words.
Well, so I think that's what we got to do. We got to bring them back now so they can defend their honor. Well, I'm sorry, guys. I had to wax poetically about my love for my Canadian juniors, but we can share a love for hockey.
This is like
Finland team while they're in the background.
Right.
Yeah, this is just like put us in a jail and just like outside shout at
us. You can't say anything to defend themselves.
I love it.
Sure. But yeah, it seems like we've caused enough of a dent to make you very emotional about it.
I'm still holding it. It really was the Russians that picked the fight. So.
Yeah, we don't really. 95 is the never forget year for us when we won the first gold medal. That was against Sweden, which is our arch nemesis in as countries go. So that was a very sweet one, and I think since then we've won. Like, who's counting anymore, right? But
yeah, who's counting?
Maybe 4 times.
I love it.
I think for a short moment in time, Finland was even ranked to be the best ice hockey country in the world.
Yeah.
I just want to point out that while Daryl was bad-mouthing Finland and playing up Canada, and Uni couldn't actually say anything, there were all these comments showing up in the private chat of Uni just throwing in
I needed to vent.
I love it.
I saw you pulling up his sleeves, ready to fight Daryl.
We're ready.
Yeah.
I love it. Well, Beneeta, do you want to ask our final question? What's what are we doing? And we'll give our guests a little time.
So, in honor of Dies being our guest today, we wanted to ask everyone, what is the best board game rulebook? And Tommy and Uni, we will give you some time to think about it, and I'm happy to answer first. And this was like a kind of a hard question. So I'm thinking back to some of the games I played earlier, and I feel like some of the older, like mid-weight Euro games have really clean and elegant rule books. Because I feel like a lot of games these days now put in like too many rules. Right. And so like, one of the games that really stood out for me was Concordia, where, it's only a few pages, but like, I feel like it has like pretty like deep strategy and, there's like a lot of gameplay there, but the rules themselves are not a lot. So that was like, and I'm sure I can like list like 10 other
that's a great
midweight yours. But
that's a good one.
I also kind of always associate, when you say that, I think of the Aaliyah rule books.
Yeah,
they often had like that side section, so they would just like throw in a little example or visual. So those are some of my favorites for sure.
Corey, how about you? What's a very good rule book for you?
Well, you've now reminded me of these early Uwe Rosenberg board games that had very clear rules with historical context. A lot of times Uwe games will talk about Frisia and all these areas in Germany and history of the farming, but those were really cool. But my pick actually, I was reminded of it when I met with the designer just a couple days ago, and that's Dale of Merchants by Sami Laakso.
Which you were raving about how good that game is when we were in Finland. I've
never played it.
It's such a good game. It's coming up on a 10-year anniversary. He's getting ready to design a new box, but it's a deck building game where there's a bunch of little mini decks of cute little animals, and you put 4 or 5 of them together into a deck, and everybody plays with this combined deck. And just the nature that all of these little animal decks are different, and the rulebook really clearly talks about each deck and what the flow of the game is. It just really is laid out nicely, and the graphic design and the art is perfect. I do have to throw out there that Sami, who did Dale of Merchants, is the designer. He's the graphic designer, he's the artist, and it's self-published. So he is a Renaissance man. He does everything. Yeah. But it's a great rule book. I always think back on it as one of the really clear rule books early in my board game career.
Wow. That awesome. I wish I had like any of those talents, but that's too many for one individual. I mean, I will confess right off the bat that I remember, this still haunts me to this day, but this one, I won't say who the publisher was, but one publisher said, I'm really glad you're a bad rule book writer, because that's how we got to sign a bunch of your good games, because no one knew how good they were. So
wow.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, I guess. But my personal favorite, and I'm biased here because I literally just saw him this morning, is Josh Capel. I think he's one of the best. He was the original rulebook and graphic designer for Pandemic, which I think one of the reasons Pandemic took off was because it made it more approachable, even for a more complex game. All the kids table games, Burnt Island games, Grand Gamers games, those are all done by Josh Capel. I even had my first game, The Walled City, was done by Josh Capel, and I paid for it myself and my co-designer Steven Sauer. When we signed with the publisher, they were going to cut a bunch of corners, and we were like, no, don't do that to our baby. So we paid personally, and I don't know, but I'm not even sure if I made money on my first game, because me and Steven Sauer were so adamant, which is why rules matter so much. Yeah. Because it opened a lot of doors for us, because then people play the game and have a good experience. And I mean, Josh Capel's still out there making incredible rule books and games. He designs games as well. He just was announced Flickering Stars, which is with Friendly Skeleton and such. But maybe, we've bought you guys a little extra enough time to be able to answer what do you think are the best rule books out there?
It's a trick question, because to me this is a question of what is the best way to hit your head in the wall. And
there is a good way. Trust me, I've experimented.
The best rule book is the one that I don't have to read. But I did think about this. I did think about a game that's a bit more complex, so that the rule book actually has to have some good structure and very clear instructions. And one of the games that I've had to actually learn from the rule book was Eclipse. And by Finnish designer, by the way.
Absolutely.
And that rule book, I think it was very clearly structured. They didn't try to fill the pages with all the text. It was easy to find all the information you needed. So that, whenever somebody asks me of an example of a good rule book, I always think of Eclipse.
100% agree. I learned that one from the rule book.
Oh, that was a good one.
I've never played Eclipse, but I really do.
Sacrilege!
I know, I've never played.
You gotta play it at my place. I have the mat. I have all the extra bits. I'm a sucker.
I tried to play it with you earlier this year. Okay, next year
I played it during the eclipse.
Oh, thank you.
Mic drop.
Like,
all right, Tommy, what's your answer to our last question?
I was actually thinking of the Forbidden series as well. That's very well written rule books for all of them, especially for gateway kind of a gaming
those are good
perspective. But personally, or let's say professionally, I did enjoy XCOM, since it didn't come with a rule book. The box only had a quick start guide, and the rest of the rules were actually in the app.
Yeah.
It wasn't the best written, but professionally, I enjoyed that I had an option of learning the game as I played, kind of like we do. But there was a wall of text, of course, but the core idea was there, that it taught you when you needed some information. So I like that.
Yeah.
And best rule book is the one you don't have to read.
Yes.
The actual best rule book, like a real rule book, was, I think, for time stories. I considered the game when I kind of just doodled with it and heard about it that it would be very difficult. When I first played it, it was very hard for me to understand what kind of a game it is. It was totally new at that time.
Yeah.
And the rule book, it took very good care of us. I didn't need to go back to it, and I read it once just before we played, and it was very clear and very well written. I did like it.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
no, that totally reminds me of what Dized is doing, and it kind of walks alongside with you and helps you kind of jump into the game, like video games have taught us. How do we apply those same concepts into board games? I think of Fog of Love as another example of something where they put a lot of detail and a lot of steps on opening the box and walking with you as you tried to learn.
So before we started with Dice, we published one game called Race to the North Pole with Tommy.
Oh.
And for this, because we already didn't like rule books, our rule book, How to Survive in the Arctic, we made it as a comic.
Nice.
Oh, I love that.
Oh.
So it teaches you the entire game, has big images, and just each rule has its own image, and so it's really not fun.
Already doing it from the start. Well,
I mean, that's knew what you all were about.
I love it. Perfect last example. Why don't we're going to jump into our outro, and we want to give you guys first chance. Please let our viewers know where they can find you, your websites, your socials, all that kind of stuff.
I don't have much of a account that you can follow because I'm thin and we just don't do that much. But you can find me on LinkedIn. That's my professional profile. The rest of the stuff that I post are pretty much just on Dice channels. And on LinkedIn, there are not very many people with my name. Just find me. There's that. Oh, and Corey, I wanted to mention. You mentioned Nokia. One last fun fact: text messages is a Finnish invention.
Whoa! I did not know that.
Now, I just want to say that I did instant messaging in 1971, but we'll let
that. That's a fight for offline. You guys can text each other about it. For myself, you can find me usually on socials like Instagram, Facebook, all that with my name. Beneeta, where can we find you?
Find me everywhere on social media at Beneeta_K. Beneeta Kaur. There's not many Beneetas out there, so it's pretty easy to find.
And Corey?
I'm at all sorts of places. I'm on YouTube, Above Board TV. DicetowerDish.com is the interview website. BoardGameInsider.com will point you towards the podcast. And I'm Dice Tower Dish on Twitter, Facebook, lots of things like that.
Amazing.
So, Tommy, did you have any other links for Diced or social media that you wanted to put out there?
Personally, you won't find me anywhere. I'm very shy, but please follow Diced. You can find us in most social medias.
Yeah, Dice handle in all platforms is @GetDiced.
At @Diced with a Z.
Z.
Diced. I don't know.
I
if
said it for the
the
Canadians in the room.
We will be back next Tuesday. We're going to be talking about Washington, D.C., my home city. So it's every Tuesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 p.m. Pacific. I don't know what time that is in Helsinki. I'm so sorry. But we will see you next Tuesday. Bye, everyone.
Thanks for having us. Bye.
Yeah.